Hey, how's it going?
What's up, bud?
Hey, how's it going, bud? For those of you that don't know, my name is Hike Shadow,
And I'm Alex.
and we're both originally from Boston, now currently residing within the city limits of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're just gonna run a podcast here, talk about life in general and what it's like growing up in New England, specifically the Boston area, and then uprooting that life and moving to the Midwest. Does that seem
While
accurate to
working
you,
in
sir?
sports.
Yes, while working in professional athletics, as that is the only background we have, to my knowledge. No college or youth athletics, correct? As far as working, not playing, we'll get into
Uh,
that. Don't
um,
worry.
yeah, I've interned collegiately, but that's about it.
You did intern collegiately. Well, look at you being well versed in athletics.
I'd say I'm well versed in a lot of things,
I
but sports tends to be one of them.
I wouldn't say I'm well versed in anything, sir.
I'm in sports, but that's really about it.
Oh yeah, fair warning, we will drop our R's, and it's not ironic, it's legit. Because that's
That's
just
just
who we are. It is my character by any means, in fact. It is
all
my
right.
character by any means, in fact, sir. You you underestimate me, and I don't know how I feel about that.
I was gonna make a Star Wars reference, but I just forgot the whole reference.
You underestimate my power in my new
Uh,
empire.
that you brought peace and justice to.
I brought peace and justice to my new empire, known as the city of Cincinnati. And
Oh man, that's a bold claim. I think
that's
Skyline called dibs on that one.
I think Skyline's the only thing that brings peace and justice to this area. They are the sponsor of all the professional and minor professional sports teams in the city and
You know a thing or
colleges.
two about that.
I know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Just go on Jeopardy at this point, kid. Like
I,
honestly.
let's talk about that for a second then. So the year is 2022. I'm applying for jobs. I really hate my current job. I took the Jeopardy test. I did not do well.
You're not wicked smart, kid, huh?
No, I'm smart, but I'm not smart enough to be on Jeopardy, man.
You're not wicked smart enough, then, kid.
Nah, not at all, kid.
But speaking of the year of our Lord and Savior, 2022, some other stuff happened that year.
Who won the Stanley Cup in 22, Alex?
That was the Lightning, was it not?
That was not.
Ah, okay.
Right? The Lightning didn't do three in a row.
They went to three in a row. I don't think they won three in a row. They won the COVID Cup, didn't they?
Yeah, they have the COVID Cup and the 21 Cup.
They made it to the 22 Cup, but I think they lost to.
They no, Yes, that's the Avalanche's Cup. That's what I
Okay,
thought.
there we go. Yep, all right.
Because you had the Avalanche, and then last year you had Vegas. And then this year you have the Dallas Stars or the Florida Panthers.
I'm taking the Dallas Stars in 7.
I'm taking the you know what? We'll get right into sports then here. I'm gonna say Florida is gonna win in 6. Dallas is gonna win in 6. I think Edmonton will win one game in that series, and then Dallas will lose one game in that series. So Edmonton will have 2 wins, but only one of them will be Edmonton won. I think it's very similar to how that Vancouver series finished up last night. Or 2 days ago at this point. It all blends together. As a Canucks fan, that hits home pretty hard. So
I don't want to comment on the Florida Panthers as a Bruins fan. 2 years in a row, this is enough brutality for my life.
I think the Panthers win the cup though. I think they win in 6. I think I think they are the better team. I think Edmonton is going to be just physical enough, and I think Florida is the most physical team in the league. So it makes total sense that Florida could take that cup home.
I don't dispute that. I just can't go against Tyler Sagan for whatever reason.
I
Probably because
I
I still want him to be a Bruin.
I love
At
Tyler
that point,
Sagan. I'm not going to say
Tyler.
I can't lie to you and say I don't love Tyler Sagan because that'd be a falsehood, and we don't speak falsehoods here. We speak truths, like real truths, not like my truth, the actual factual truths.
that's just a New England specialty is that we just deal in absolutes, and I think some people don't like that.
Oh, I think that's a really big thing about New England in general, that you just you don't understand. You don't know. You don't understand. You don't know anything, but we're just very matter of fact, absolute back home. And I think living out here in the Midwest for about 2 years now, I've noticed there's a lot less dealing in absolutes. Would you kind of agree with that take?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but also I just realized I use 25 letters of the alphabet a lot of the time now. I can't live with that half the time. You know what I mean?
25.
I drop my R's a lot now.
Oh,
Way more than I used to.
That's another thing. I think I'll talk about being home, and or I'll go home for vacation or something to visit my mom, to just to be at home, or I'll watch TV or local news from home, because I want to know what's happening at my parents' house. At the end of the day, I want to know what's happening. And all of a sudden, I'll be talking and I'll be like, "Hey man, where's the bubbler?" And people look at me like, "Excuse me? Yeah, where's the bubbler?"
Extra emphasis on that AH there.
Oh,
That's the one thing
and
my favorite thing about it is that I'll just do that and not be conscious about it. I'll just do it because I'm used to doing it, if that makes sense.
no, I get that, and I think I'll say things like that, and people will be like, "The water fountain," and I'm like, first of all, what's a water fountain? That's what birds drink out of, or have the little babies, or the turtle statue in Worcester.
We need to pull a picture of that though,
Uh,
for reference at some point.
Yes. Edit for the non-live version. Just edit in a picture of the Turtle Boy statue, please. That's my editor's note for you.
And the thing with that statue is, that's our former place of work too. That's how.
That's where we met.
That's how this dynamic duo became a dynamic duo. Is the city of Worcester, Massachusetts.
We met by the turtle statue, and that's not even a falsehood. We worked right outside that park, because that statue's by City Hall in downtown Worcester.
See how we just add extra letters to this, man?
Oh, yeah.
We add extra letters, but also get rid of letters at the same time, and that's how I try to explain it. But there's people that still I could be at work, right? And I'm wearing Red Sox stuff, Celtics, whatever. Oh, are you from there? I'm like, yeah. Can you say car for me? I'm like, say what? Car. I'm like, I give into it, but sometimes it's just that subconscious thing of being in a new place, and I just explain, oh, you're not from here, are you? No, I'm from Massachusetts. Oh, where about?
Turn your mic down a little bit. It's getting a little tinny. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Nah, you're good.
That's better. It was just getting a little tinny in my ears, and you're gonna hate it when you edit it, and then you hear all the tinniness.
Yeah, but I think growing up near Lexington and Concord, the forefront of the American Revolution,
or as I call it, home.
We call it the homeland. We call it the motherland. Whatever you want to call it, we call it that. People don't seem to know where that is, and we're from the two towns that are right next to it.
Yep, I always tell people I'm from Concord. I'm not gonna lie.
I get the
and I'll drill down. And I've had this conversation, especially with other coworkers that have either been to New England, from New England. In general, people I met from New England, been to New England, or spent a lot of time in New England. And I'll be like, they're like, all right, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Massachusetts. They're like, what part? I'm like, oh, I'm from Eastern Mass, kind of near Boston. And they're like, you don't sound like you're from Boston. I was like, well, I grew up 26 miles west of the city. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because, again, if I go 26 miles west of downtown Cincinnati, I think you're probably in Indiana, would be my guess. But people would still consider that the greater Cincinnati area, right? I'm like, well, I'm from Metro West Boston. That makes sense. And then they're like, whereabouts? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Concord. And they're like, I've heard about that, but I have no clue where that is. And I was like, drop a pin on Boston. Go 25 miles west. Don't do the San Diego Strike Force thing last year, or 2 years ago now, where Worcester is 40 miles east of Boston. That puts you in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, for those of you that are not very good at geography.
I know I'm not.
I'm not either. I'm awful at geography.
Anyway, do you want to just stay on our little tangent about New England slang for a while?
Yeah,
Just kinda
let's
run
send
with
it.
that.
Let's send it, as the kids say.
Yeah, we're old, so I mean it makes sense.
Leads the podcast with, what it's like being young working in sports. Oh, we're old.
I'm gonna cut like half of this stuff out. You know that.
Yeah, that's fine. You also won't. We know this.
You know what? I've been out in the greater Ohio's for about a year now, you can call it.
Yeah,
I
probably.
like how a lot of towns out here are pronounced exactly as they're spelled phonetically.
Do you know
And
how
we
much?
don't have that luxury. Our parents don't have that luxury.
Honestly, that bothers me. Like, it actually bothers me. Like,
It does bother me to the point where I'm like, are you sure that AH is supposed to be a UH or what, or that HAM is supposed to be a like, are your phonetics like all the way there?
imagine speaking the language and it actually being the language. We don't have that luxury back home.
No, not at all.
You have Billerica, which is spelled what? Billerica, I think, if you actually, were to spell it. I can't spell Billerica, but I can look at the word and I'm like, oh, that's Billerica. Lemonsta.
Well, I'm going to go Peabody. That's probably the one I get people with all the time out
Except
here.
that's
Peabody.
that's like the simplest, though. It's spelled Peabody. So, Peabody makes sense.
You'll be surprised how many people disagree with me about that. I think it makes perfect sense. I'm like, no, where did you getting these extra letters from? It's right there in front of you. It's just like
right there in front of you.
P buddy.
Yep.
You know,
It's
1, 2.
I can't.
1 and 2 makes 3. You know. Mm-hmm.
I'm also a big fan of Worcester and Dorchester.
Dorchester's always a good one.
Yeah.
Anything where you can slide the accent in there is always a fun time out here.
Dorchester as a city name is a fun one, but they're spelt the exact same. Worcester and Dorchester are spelt the same way, but we don't call it Duster. That was a take of another one of our former coworkers that he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Duster," and I was like, "Huh?" And he said it as a joke because obviously everyone knows how to say Dorchester.
And I think really how I try to explain the whole Boston accent thing to people is that if you don't live within maybe like a 10-mile radius from the epicenter of Boston, you're not going to get it. And once you hit mile 11 onward, your parents have to move out and settle where we grew up, and then maybe you'll get a slight tinge of it. Otherwise, it's just not a thing.
So I'll disagree a little bit. My mom has a really thick one. She also grew up in the same hometown as you. I think it's a generational thing. I think part of it is we grew up watching more national media, in general, and so we shape our voice like the people we hear on we see on TV, and everything. So you and I have much more of a normal cadence. We also both wound up in some level of production. At some point, I was in TV and radio through middle school, through high school, and then into college. So I kind of really, really flushed the Boston accent. But at least for me, when I get really excited about something, when I've been drinking, because I am of legal age, and I do enjoy a beverage from time to time, and if I'm just angry, if my emotions get out of whack in any way, shape, or form, I do drop my R's pretty heavy. My girlfriend will point that out. She'll be like, I'll come home from the bar on a Friday night during the season, or a Saturday night, whenever the weekend is actually for me, and I'll come home and I'll be talking to her, and I'll be like, yeah, I was down at the bar and all that shit, and she's like, you've been drinking, haven't you? I was like, yeah, I only had a couple though, and she's like, Mike, your R's are gone, and I was like, well, I should probably go fucking find them there.
That's the thing is I've noticed my cadence with it is more prevalent out here versus back home. Because I think whenever I'm back home, I just kind of ignore it. I just don't. I kind of get this weird thing where like I don't use it as much. But like when I'm out here, like I just kind of get. I always tell people I get lazy when I speak, but sometimes it just kind of slips out. Like it doesn't like I'm not trying to use it, but it'll just randomly just pop out of there.
No, I agree. I think there's also some level where the thickest accents we do here, and this is gonna be kind of an asshole, kind of a hot take. I think the thickest Boston accents we typically hear, it's not lawyers, doctors that you're hearing it. It's like it's literally the garbage men, like in
It's
downtown,
townies.
the
Yeah.
townies and garbage men, and like the people that collect your trash, garbage men, not garbage people. I feel like that's two very different things, and we're not gonna get into garbage people.
Nah.
At least I hope not. And those accents just, I think mentally, they, because of the jobs. Now, I'm not attacking intelligence of anyone ever, because honestly, most people are smarter than me. Like, and I know that. I may have two pieces of paper that claim I'm smart, but I'm pretty dumb, and I know that. But my point is, I think we subconsciously said, well, this accent is tied to those kind of more like blue collar jobs, right? And so like that's another reason we mentally flush it away when we live at home. But then, you know, we've come out here to Ohio. We've been here for like a year or longer. I'm working on 2 at this point. I'm at a year and a half, almost 2 years here. And at that point, I let my R's fall a little bit, and I do what I can, and it's just kind of comforts me about reminding like what it was like at home, how much I enjoy it, how much I miss home. I miss home every day, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss it. At least like general like New England things.
Yeah, and I feel like I was one of those people that just had to get out of there. I feel like just around the people we grew up with, I think so many people wanted to stay. I'm not trying to knock that. It's just like that. Just I don't fall in that group of people that wants to stay in one place for 50 years or whatever.
I agree 100%, and I think that was another kind of point. I remember when I applied for my job that moved me out here. I was frantic. Like I got offered the job. I frantically called my uncles who both have moved from New England, and like I was like, I don't know, what should I do? Like I need advice, because I think it's a really big scary thing to make that sort of jump. And
Yeah.
both my uncles said the same thing. They're like, dude, do it for a year. You may love being out. You like, and they both told me, they're like, my mom's house, which unfortunately is no longer there. The house where they grew up is no longer there. It's I grew up a little bit in that house too. But they said that's always going to be my home. Like, one of my uncles lives in California, the other lives in North Carolina. They're like, I live here, but my home will always be Acton, Massachusetts. And that kind of was the thing that really helped me feel good about myself and like my move.
Yeah, at least in my spot, I already had family out here, so it kind of made things a lot easier. Just to like, I didn't just drop into a new place by myself. Like I was never gonna be.
Oh, I did.
Like,
I
alone,
absolutely
so to
just
speak.
sent it.
I mean, I think your situation kind of worked out in a way that you got on your feet running, and you got running pretty quick.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
I
didn't
wound
just
up.
wait around.
You know, I moved to Cincinnati, and we had our first game less than 48 hours after I was in the city. So
Yeah,
I lived in an Airbnb for a month and a half. I didn't actually have a house, like a house, home, apartment, whatever you want to call it. I didn't have a place to live. I was just friggin' winging it. And I remember probably one of my first 2-3 weeks. I said something, and it was the first time I really had the ability to like really get to meet my coworkers and everything. And we were sitting in the office. It was finally a little bit slow. Like, obviously, the beginning of a season's never slow, as you know. But there was a little bit of a break, and I said something, and I was like, oh, yeah, it was wicked. And then, like, first of all, apparently people don't use wicked to describe it as greatly good. Like wicked is like you have a salad, right? Like, and you put bacon bits on it. Wicked is like the bacon bits. The salad itself is good, right? But when you add bacon bits to the salad, it's wicked good.
Yeah, wicked's kind of like one of those words you just use. It's like
flavoring.
a filler word, but it also like in Philly they say John a lot just for anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of one of those filler words that has no specific context to it. It just kind of fits in.
Yeah, and
it's like wicked good, you know. There's a lot of other applications for it for where we're from, but I think when I say wicked, that's kind of where the accent comes out more. It's not even on like a AR sound. It's more on just like wicked or whatever.
Yeah, I'll use the word wicked, and then for the next few minutes, because we're doing this podcast currently, I subconsciously am not letting the R's drop. I'm forcing myself not to let the R's drop, but like more often than not, I'll be sitting there or I'll be in the office or something. I'll be talking to coworkers, and I'll be like, "Oh man, like that was wicked fucking good," and they're like, "Dude, you just sound like you're from Boston." I'm like, "Well, I did tell you I grew up there." Like, for lack of a better term, I grew up in Boston.
So like, I think that's Boston has become like you and I don't claim to be from the city proper.
God,
so
no.
I think we try to explain it. I think I've kind of gone off. I just kind of don't really explain it anymore. I just kind of say I'm from that area. You know, if I pinpoint a specific town, you're gonna have no clue where it is.
Yeah, and I mean, again, using the Cincinnati, because that's the current city we reside in, 275, right? The loop around 275. You're considered from Cincinnati if you live inside 275, right? Regardless if it's Indiana or Kentucky.
Yeah.
Or Ohio. You're in that bubble, you're considered you live in Cincinnati. If we were to take that bubble and stretch it out, go back home, go to Boston, that's 495. We both grew up east of 495, so we grew up in the 495 loop, so we grew up in Metro West Boston. Yeah. And that's kind of how I'll describe it, and that's the most from Boston I'll ever get. Like, especially when I'm the farther from the city of Boston I am, the more I use that metric. Like, when I talk to people from New York City, not really. Like, I'll use it to kind of help you pinpoint where I'm from, and then once you understand where I'm from, then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not actually from Boston, but for mental purposes, I'm from Boston.
I think the more vague we are about kind of pinpointing it, the easier. I've noticed the vaguer I am about it, the easier it is to explain, and kind of like moves on. It kind of moves on from that conversation.
Yeah, I think people get bored. Like, if you want me to be honest.
Yeah, because I'll end up talking to people just randomly, like, hey, they see that I'm wearing a Celtics shirt or a Red Sox shirt or whatever. But, hey, are you from Boston? Yeah, I grew up about 30 miles outside. And then, we grew up in this town. Like, yeah, I know where you're at. I know where that is vaguely.
Exactly.
I used to work down by.
Yeah, exactly.
I pinpoint based on like landmarks too. I don't even pinpoint on town names sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like if you threw a town at me, could I more than likely get it on the map correctly in the state of Massachusetts or within 2 towns of that cities or towns of that actual location? Honestly, yeah, I probably could. But because I generally know, like, if someone's like, oh, I'm from Salem, I'm like, all right, so that's North Shore. You got Peabody, you got Lynn, you got Linfield.
Wakefield up there?
Wakefield's up that way, yeah.
Marshfield's up there, I think.
And I thought Marshfield was down.
I don't even know the geography of my own home state, and that needs to be addressed, I think.
Well, we'll give you a geography test at some point. I'll give you a blank map and have you name all 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. that's just what we'll do. We'll
My
figure
0
it out.
for 2.
Oh,
0 for
dude,
2 on composure right now.
you did get a little bit of a belly laugh there. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. That's still not my character by any means, but we'll not explain that reference either because that's a very inside joke amongst a very select group of people.
And we'll move on. You know what? Let's get into last week. Last week in sports. So
What's it, huh?
for last week in sports, for reference, today is the 22nd of May, 2024. So last week in sports will be the last week leading up until last night. So if something wild and crazy happens tonight or Thursday, that'll be on next week's Last Week in Sports because it's not last week yet. It's quite literally the last 7 days. Someone's going to fry me otherwise. That's why I had to be very literal with my take.
So, where do you want to start?
Let's start with... You can start with basketball because, 4 people in the world care about that sport.
Oh, the Celtics scrapped away with a Game 1 win. Didn't really... The way they're playing, I thought they were going to throw that game away in the fourth because Indiana just kept finding a way to respond every single time down the floor. And the fact they had to go to overtime to settle that, I'm not surprised. My original view was Celtics in 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced they'll go 6, maybe 7 if the Celtics just have a game where they don't show up. Because Indiana's just going to run the floor, and the Celtics got to slow it down. They're better when they slow down, more so than playing quick.
That's fair, and I mean, I think, again, I don't watch basketball, but I will say I think it's kind of cool seeing the Pacers good again, first of all, because they were awful for a long time.
Yeah, the Larry Bird era wasn't their best era of Pacer basketball. But
at the end of the day, we roll heavy and hot, and we do what we can do.
I mean, I'm still going to be a townie when it comes to the Celtics, so I'll be obnoxious about them winning.
I'll tell you, there's legitimately one, and we're up to one. I know, right? Wow. Kids from Boston doesn't like Boston sports teams. I actually have exactly one Boston sports team I support. Boston sports team. They play in Lowell.
The Massachusetts Pirates.
No, actually, Green Bay Blizzard have always been my arena football team.
How dare you slander your ex-employer like that?
Sir, I will say I respect the players. I respect the staff. I respect everything about the Pirates. But, at the end of the day, I was playing arena football, Road to Glory in 2006. I picked the Green Bay Blizzard then. We're riding with it. And that's
until the team in Indy shows up and then
the Green Bay Blizzard will always be near and dear to my heart, but I'll go full force Fisher's Freight. Also kind of a sick name, I'm not gonna lie. But no, it's they do share a building though. PWHL's Boston team. I've been really behind them all year. I didn't get to watch last night's game, which they unfortunately lost 3-0, making the Walter Cup final 1-1 with Minnesota. Because I had a prior engagement that I had to get to, and I was not home until after the game ended. So I did miss the game, but I'm enjoying watching it. The crowds in Lowell look awesome. It's great for the Tsongas Center getting extra hockey. I remember growing up going to Lock Monsters games there, and thinking minor hockey is cool. Fast forward 20 years, bro, I'm working in it. So I think it's great that women and girls have a team that's not only successful on the ice, but successful at drawing crowds. Those crowds, again, they're going to be smaller because it is women's sports, and I'm not being a jerk. It's just they don't have the same popularity that the NHL has. That's why we've had multiple leagues fail. did I go to a couple Boston Pride games when they had when that women's hockey league was around and they were playing out in the Warrior? I did. Was it harder for me to get there than it is for me to get to Lowell? Also, yes. But I enjoyed it, and the game was different. It was much more like going to college hockey, which I'm less of a fan of, because I do like hitting and I like the physical aspect. So I think them adding that to the women's game in the PWHL is gonna help in general. At least I hope. Nothing. I can't deal in absolutes because I don't know. But I'd love to see that league get to 12 soon and have 2 full 6-team conferences instead of realistically 1 6-team conference. I think that'll be better if you can play 6 more teams. And again, if they want to keep it even, do 3 Canada, 3 US. That's fine. I also like the idea of not attacking the same markets the NHL is in. Obviously, you want Boston, you want Minnesota, you want Toronto, you want Ottawa, and Montreal, and then New York. The 6 markets they picked to start, fantastic markets, and can definitely support a women's team. But I think as you start kind of getting to the less traditional hockey markets, like the Californias of the world, don't have a team in LA and Anaheim. Have one or 2 teams in the state of California, maybe. Go down south, maybe throw a team in Florida. But again, the hockey market in Florida is pretty, not tapped, but pretty competitive. You have 2 NHL teams, 2 ECHL teams. Those are the things the league's going to have to look at as they start expanding. Where are they not going to cannibalize themselves competing with hockey to hockey, right? And I think that'll be something. I am looking forward to seeing, switching gears to the NHL. I'm looking forward to seeing the Dallas-Edmonton series. I think will be pretty good. Unfortunately, Vancouver couldn't get it done. That being said, I think if Vancouver had won, they'd maybe go 5 or 6 games with Dallas, but I think Dallas would ultimately win that series. And I think the Stars will probably win in 6 over Edmonton. I think Dallas is just too deep to not go 6. And then I think the Panthers are going to be kind of a similar beast. And it's really hard. It's really hard to pick against Sergei Bobrovsky. He just is unreal, man.
Can I spin that for a minute?
Yeah. Of
So,
course.
what if I'm just a Bruins fan who can't get over the fact they ran out of gas after every single goal they scored in every single game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't discredit Jeremy Swayman at all for how well he was playing.
So that's actually it strengthens my point of why I think the Florida Panthers are going to be able to out-depth the New York Rangers. I think the Panthers weren't. It wasn't just Tkachuk. It wasn't just that kind of top line of the Panthers scoring. They were 3-4 lines deep when they were scoring their goals, and just running. They rolled 4 lines really well. Bobrovsky is a brick wall. He just has been. They took on a really good Tampa team. They made the really good Tampa team not look that good. They took on a very good Bruins team. Same thing.
They gassed that Bruins team out, though.
Did that series go 7 games? Yes.
How gassed the Bruins were after Game 3, really? I wanted to see what the Bruins offense could do with Swayman matching Bobrovsky in per save. It felt like.
Yeah.
It's just whenever the Bruins can get the puck out of the neutral zone and try to attack because there is always a body nearby at all points. And I think Florida and Boston, they're just going to keep fighting each other. You know what I mean? That's how those games are going to be. They're going to be dogfights.
Yeah, so
even if it doesn't look like it, they will be.
So I have the save percentages up here. So the best save percentage in the playoffs right now is actually Swayman. Swayman had a .933. So 93.3% of the shots he was facing, literally 93 and a little bit out of 100, weren't going in the back of that net. Next best, Igor Shesterkin, who has a 923. Then you get to Jake Ottinger for Dallas. Then it's Bob, who has a 902. Then it's
That 902 feels a lot higher than it actually is. For what it,
so
am I
then
crazy for saying that, or like realistically, I feel like his 902 should be like a 922. It feels like he should be right behind Swayman. But
so his 902 is because he's faced the least shots. He's only seen 264 shots.
Whereas Swayman is probably it felt like Swayman saw 500 shots a game. It really felt like that.
Between the two series, he saw 373 shots. 373 shots. Over what? Was that 13 games?
13 games.
So
you're looking at
12. It's 12. They played 12. They were 6-6 in the playoffs. Which that's not even bad. 6-6 in the playoffs is not even bad.
No, I think you look at the team that the Bruins have, you think that they'd be able to make a run at it, but
I think a lot of them are old.
They need pieces, dude. Like they still need some pieces to build some depth around that because you could tell when their fourth line was the line that was really just doing all the work.
Because the Bruins did play 13 games, but Ullmark played one.
Yeah. Because I think I told you this. I don't know if I told you this or I told some other people. I thought Ullmark would have slid in one more game, maybe early on in the Florida series, just try to see what would happen. But it was Swayman's crease. But I feel like it's kind of what Toronto did when they swapped the goalies out midway through. Mm-hmm. They kind of got back in it in that way. I thought the Bruins would try that just to kind of see what would happen.
So I think
they're so used to platooning them out, but
I think that's partially what won the series for Edmonton. The fact that Vancouver had no goalie to switch out. Edmonton was able to go to Calvin Pickard, he's also a very good goaltender. Like don't get it twisted. I don't think he's not a good goaltender, but they were able to go to Calvin Pickard, 100% fresh goaltender. He did his thing. He won the game. Great. And then they went back to Stuart Skinner, who now had a game's rest. And that game's rest, I think, is why Vancouver didn't win on the 20th. As much as I wanted them to win, as much as I thought there were moments in that game, specifically near the end, that Vancouver needed to play a little bit harder to get where they were going. But they just... They didn't have the gas.
I think it goes back to the point of, you don't take out the hot hand necessarily. Because sometimes taking out the hot hand just throws all that chemistry out the window.
Exactly.
And I think the Bruins are kind of scared to do that.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest myth about hockey, and I'll call it a myth. I think like obviously I want to ride a hot goalie. Like if I have a goalie, he's hot, he's doing his thing. Of course, I'm putting him in the net the next night. Like mentally, of course, I'm putting him in the net the next night. But I think there's some logic to sitting here and say, what if I don't put the goalie in tonight? And instead, I give him the night off, right? Bro, take a night off. Have a good one. Like, enjoy. Take a second. Be you. Enjoy life. Honestly, the right choice. The right choice. 100% of the time. Because rest is really important for a player, and especially in a goaltender. Like, every other skater at least gets a minute to breathe during the game. Goalies do not get a minute to breathe.
Well, they'll probably get
20
seconds, if that.
I mean, the puck can be down the ice in 2 seconds. Like, bang, you clear the puck, and it can be all turned around, and I'd be like, oh, uh-oh.
Here's the thing I'm going to use the Bruins series as an example of this, right? Is when you watch the Bruins on the power play or on the penalty kill,
mm-hmm.
How many times are they able to clear that?
The Bruins, I thought, were pretty successful at clearing it. I didn't watch a lot of their games, but
No, but it seems like It was more so against Florida because against Toronto they were playing. They probably had their best penalty kill out of the two series, but
I was watching more of the Toronto games because my
yeah.
favorite rivalry
So
in all of
when they were
sports.
playing Florida, they couldn't clear the puck out of the attacking zone to save their life, and that's how Swayman saw 300 and whatever shots you were bringing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because their inability to clear is definitely what killed them there. And I forget what game it was. I think it was Lowry was on a 4-minute power. The Panthers were able to get 2 goals out of a 4-minute power play. I'm just like, and I think maybe 7 or 8 different times the Bruins just failed to clear the puck just to give Swayman 5 seconds to breathe. Because he had to chalk, you had whoever else was up front in his grill the whole damn time.
No, exactly, and I think getting a goalie tired is the easiest way to win a game. Like, you can have the best team in the world, but if your goalie is playing like a wet paper bag, it's a very hard night for you.
See, I don't think Swayman was. I think it was just the volume of shots Florida was getting up kind of led him to be like, I feel like in his own head, he was just like, can these guys get the puck out once so I can have a second to like just kind of skate, kind of move around the crease a little bit?
So that's my point, right? Like, they created the wet paper bag situation in Swayman because he was overworked. Like there were points in games where, honestly, if I was Florida, I really could have had a wet paper bag in net because the pressure was down there. But the downside to that is if you don't have a team that can really hem you into your zone, make you lose your ability to shift, change rather, and things like that, I don't see how you possibly can win a series. And my dad said it best. He didn't think that the Bruins were going to beat Toronto, and I reminded him, my favorite rivalry in all of sports. Now, I'm a Yankees fan, I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, Seattle Sounders, Cleveland Browns, not one Boston team. My favorite rivalry in all of sports, the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round of the playoffs. It's the greatest rivalry in sports.
It's a free win for whoever's playing the Leafs in the first round.
Except for last year. The Leafs did win a round last year.
Well, that was their only round 1 win in like
since 2003.
6, 7 years. I just think of the 2013 series against the Bruins, really.
And 2019, they did the same thing. The Leafs.
See, I just rewatched 2013 because that was that was 2 cup years, wasn't it? 13, 19?
19 would have been the I'm sorry for my broadcaster if you find this. 19 is the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup Championship. Game 7.
The Bruins should have won that series too, by the way.
I agree. I also think it's nice that the Blues won for one reason only. Current St. Louis Blue Torrey Krug 100% got away with murder as a charging in like game 5, and you can't skate 200 feet, jump off your skates to make a hit, and it not be charging. That is like
that sounds like a slight charge.
That is textbook charging. And sorry, I'm playing with a chess ball. Textbook charging, and it's one of those things where it's like, bud, if you're gonna do this, just think. And I was glad. Also, I love to see new Cup champions, people that haven't been champs in a while. Those kind of things I do root for. Like, am I a Browns fan? Yes. Am I a Canucks fan? Yes. Obviously, I want my teams to win. Let's say, in a magical world, the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl this year. Will a little part of me want the Cleveland Browns to not go back to back in Super Bowls? Yes, honestly. Like, obviously, I want my team to win. I want them to win as many championships as possible. Same with the Yankees. I can tell you in 2010, I wanted the Yankees to win the World Series, but a little part of me was like, ooh, you know what'd be cool? Not the Yankees winning back-to-back World Series. Because I like to see new champions. I like to see the championships spread throughout the league. I think it makes the league seem more competitive and make me more likely to watch.
So I want to pivot back to women's sports again.
Okay, sorry.
Caitlin Clark made her WNBA debut, and what are your thoughts so far on her?
Well, so I will disclose I do have a friend that works in the front office of the Connecticut Sun. So Caitlin Clark's debut was at Mohegan Sun.
I do have a person in that front office too.
I'm assuming our people know each other.
I'm very much assuming that's the case.
But my point is, I think what my buddy told me, he was like, dude, it was one of the most electric crowds we've had, and he's been there since 2018 when we graduated college together. Actually, he started a little bit. Like, I started my first job in sports in September, and I think he started in October or November. So he started in sports a couple months after me, but he's been at the same team, whereas I've been at 3 different teams now. And we were texting back and forth, and I was like, dude, your crowd, I was like, hey, I didn't get to watch the game. Good luck tonight, everything. Like, go win a ring. Like, my team's done for the year. It's your shot. It's your shot now. I want to know someone that gets a championship ring, like, on the front office side. I don't want to know them when they get their championship ring. Earn it, that is. Because obviously I knew you when you collected your IFL championship ring.
You met me just after that.
Yes. Well, yeah. I think I met you before you
We won the shit, but I didn't get my ring yet. So.
Yes, yeah. Because I was at I attended the last game before the Arizona game. I was there in the crowd, specifically asking my buddy. And we had been to a couple games. I was like, who's the 12-year-old on the sideline? Like, before I met said 12-year-old. He's not 12. He's 23.
I mean, he's not 12, but if we showed you, you'd get it real quick.
Well,
he's one of those people.
We'll get him on the pod.
People would get it.
We'll get him on the pod.
If we showed a visual.
We'll get him on the pod.
But it's an inside joke.
Yeah.
The context of which is an inside joke.
Which I found the joke funnier. After that was a legitimate question I had asked my friend, and he's like, "That's their equipment manager. I'm pretty sure he's not 12." And I was like,
"Oh, manager, he was an intern." I just want to clarify that little cloud right there.
Yeah, fine, fair enough. But
equipment intern is a very key phrase there.
To go back to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark's debut, I'm actually looking through my text messages right now to see what my buddy said for verbatim.
I read something that Fever ticket sales went up by like 1,000%, no matter where they were going, whether it was home or away.
Yeah, I mean,
how hot that ticket was, and I'm sure you know this better than me, but I think you guys can adjust your ticket prices on popularity based on who's coming in.
My buddy said we sold it and won. They sold the building like out. He said the crowd was around 9,000 for that first game. That's great. Again, going back to my point about the PWHL and the UMass Lowell crowds, the crowds at the Song Center, which is on UMass Lowell's campus. He said like they had 9,000. WNBA been around a lot longer. 96 is the first season of the WNBA, if I'm correct.
I'll agree. I don't have the number on my head.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the Caitlin Clark effect is in full effect. I've always watched women's basketball. My sister went to college with the son of the UConn women's coach, so I've always watched college basketball and the women's side of sports. Also, my sister played a lot of sports, so I was watching girls and women's sports growing up. So I'm a big proponent of them growing and being popular. Not so hot take. I don't think they'll ever be truly as popular as in the mainstream as men's sports. I think you will have just as rabid fandoms, though, if not more rabid fandoms for these women's teams in the long run. And I think it's great for women and girls to see people that look like them, right? Like at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a lot of work to do.
Why was Brian Scalabrine my favorite basketball player? Because he was just kind of an awkward, proportioned white guy playing in the NBA. And I was like, cool, he can do it, I can do it. Like, obviously I can't. I'm awful at basketball. but like I remember seeing Brian Scalabrine play in the NBA, and I was like, dude, like normal looking people can make it to the NBA.
Yeah.
So I think I want to see these women's sports grow for the same reason, because I want girls to be able to look up and be like, dude, normal girls can do this.
Yeah, and I think just for kind of that equity side, like there's going to be a lot of work to do on that for probably forever. But having those big name players, the first 7 or 8 picks of this year's WNBA draft are the biggest women's basketball players in the game in college.
Yeah, they were, and I think
I think you'll see this more with like the bigger NIL players coming out of. This is on both sides, not so much on one side in particular. That, especially on the women's side, I think they're going to leverage all the NIL opportunities they had and kind of pay it back and pay it forward in the way that they're going to use that influence to grow women's sports. I think that's kind of what it's been missing for the last few years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But also, going back to the Fever game against the Sun, there's another Mass Pirates connection there. Besides
obviously us having people in the front office. Carrington, right? His sister plays for the Sun?
Yeah, Darren's sister. I've worked with Darren on some projects, but yeah, his sister put some pretty lockdown defense on Caitlin Clark right away.
That's and like I think it's good for women's basketball because Caitlin Clark, obviously, she deservedly so. Again, fantastic athlete, and anyone that says anything else is kind of a dick.
Incorrect. It's an incorrect statement saying that she's not a great. But I think there's just a learning curve going from college to professional. That's just any sport, not just basketball, not just baseball, whatever it is.
And I think
there's going to be the learning curve because of the pace of play is always going to be different going from D1 college to the WNBA, the NBA, wherever you end up.
Oh, I couldn't say it any better myself. I was going to say I think every sport obviously has a learning curve, and I think there's different levels of steepness. Because let's jump to another person that made their professional debut. Paul Skeens. He made his MLB debut.
Big
this last week.
Chicken Alfredo pregame is causing issues. I saw that McAfee clip the other day. I'm like, he looks like a dude that would down chicken Alfredo before throwing 100 miles an hour. It just makes too much sense for him not to eat anything else but chicken Alfredo.
Yeah, no, another guy that, like, again, does that show that, honestly, the D1 college, I don't know how long ago was he in college? He hasn't been in the minors more than.
He got drafted last year. He was 1-1 in 23, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So he was what? He's 1 year out of college? Was he at LSU?
Literally, yeah. He was on that LSU.
He was on that LSU team with that.
He was at Air Force first, but people kind of forget about that.
I did know that because he transferred before like mandatory service started. I do know that much.
Yeah, and I was reading earlier today that he does want to end up serving after his career's over. But
I think that's why he transferred. And obviously, this is just straight up conjecture. I have no grounds to prove otherwise. But I think straight up conjecture that he transferred to not have mandatory service so that he could go straight to professional baseball, and then as long as he doesn't damage himself too much, which I don't think he will. I think he'll be smart about it, and he's probably really good about like his diet and exercise and everything, and resting his arm. My arm literally hurts. I was breaking in my baseball glove the other day some more, and my arm hurts from that.
Yeah, if I started throwing again, my shoulder and my elbow would be all messed up because I'd start throwing.
Yeah, it's my elbow.
That's not there. You don't want to be hurt there.
I literally just turned and I was like, "Oh, that hurts a little bit. I'm old. I'm gonna need some Thomas Jonathan, I assume."
All right, man, not the Thomas Jonathan.
I'm thinking I'm gonna need it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, go seek a second opinion before you do that.
I'm gonna seek a first opinion because my brain just sitting here while my elbow hurts is the first opinion currently.
go seek a medical first opinion, not just a self-induced first opinion.
Someday I'll see a doctor.
I know that day won't be tomorrow, so I'll believe it when I see it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all, friend.
Is there anything else you want to get into?
If there's anything else you think about sending here.
Oh, do you want to do your? Do you want to rate some movies real quick?
Yeah. Let's rate these 5 movies. Do you have
Let's
Do you have the list written out for me in no particular order?
Yeah, let me pull up the archives real quick. I'll give you go first, and I'll give mine. I actually need to think about it.
Is it in the same archive I'm thinking it's in?
It's definitely in that archive that I can't find, even though it's right in front. All right, there we go. All right, cool.
Is it actually in there?
It's in front of me. Yes, sir. All right, so
hold up.
Can you provide context on the list, though?
What?
Give the people the context of this list because
Okay.
It's very necessary.
So I don't actually see the. Oh, because it was a text message. We used a real text message for this. That's how you know how important it was.
Yeah,
You know what? Let's talk about that for 1 second.
We're just in a conglomerate of people that don't have your traditional group chat through your typical phone messaging.
Yeah.
We use everything else but iMessage or whatever.
I was gonna say
that explains our dynamic very well.
Our group chat is spread across Instagram, Snapchat, and then actual text messages, like an actual group text message.
But it's used in that order. And I think that's the bigger part there. It's used in that set order.
It's worse than that. It's not used in that order. It's used in what app did I have open when I thought of a comment? Because if I have
iMessage is usually last. iMessage is almost always last.
Yeah, I was gonna say typically we stick to the Instagram, YouTube. Yeah, we send YouTube videos.
Where the hell did you come up with that one?
Mexico.
That's not my character by any means there, but I try to keep it consistent.
Yeah, I know.
And this so far has been the epitome of consistency, if I do say so myself.
We've actually been pretty good for rolling off the cuff, like I feel we are.
This is off the strength, off the cuff.
Careful with those words, sir.
Nobody's gonna ask me what half of these words even mean. So
people are gonna ask you many questions, and you're gonna be like, "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about."
Sir, I just work here. I just do this podcast in my spare time. This is all this is.
This is a Wendy's.
This is a Skyline chili, actually.
Oh, dude, I almost asked to have Skyline for dinner tonight. I almost had Skyline for dinner.
Here's my hot take about living out here, and I meant to say this like an hour ago. Is that I know you're a Skyline guy through and through. That's been established.
So I haven't tried Gold Star yet. So my opinions on Gold Star are to be determined.
I think it's like I don't have the urge to go to Skyline as much as you do.
I don't really have an urge. I will say the times I have
you've gone more times in 1 week than I have in about a year.
I've gone like 4 or 5 times total. Not counting like if we had a media meal and Skyline was the media meal. I've probably gone like 4 or 5 times.
You've gone at Reds games when they've gone though.
Yeah, ooh. So that's a point I like to make. When I go to a stadium, right? Whether it's New York City, because I've only been to stadiums in 3 cities, 4 stadiums. Sorry, I'm looking at myself and now I'm starting to blink a lot. When I go to a stadium, I like to try like the stadium food, right? Like the local stadium flavor. When I go to Fenway, I don't like hot dogs. I really am not a big hot dog guy.
Not a big guy, huh?
But when I go to Fenway, I will have a Fenway Frank. At least 1, maybe 7. Knowing me, probably 28. And then I wonder where all my money went because hot dogs cost like $10 at Fenway.
Hold on. What kind of math is that? Like, I don't even crush Fenway Franks when I go. Like, I straight up, I eat before I get a beer when I get in there. That's like all I do.
Papagino's too. I'll have a lot of Papagino's pizza at Fenway.
Papagino's the New England Skyline of pizza places.
Yes, I would agree with that take.
All right, that's a good one.
Papagino's is New England's version of Skyline. and it's
Anyway.
it's not chili. It's quite literally.
I mean, they're everywhere though. Papa Gino's is literally everywhere out there.
The only thing more everywhere in New England than Papa Gino's is Dunkies.
Oh, there's just 1,000 of them in our home state. That's just like not a rational number at all.
Do you want to know my favorite fact about Dunkin' Donuts?
My favorite one was just not one in Stowe.
That is actually mine as well. That was literally the only city or town in Massachusetts without a Dunkin' Donuts.
What's funny is that in Acton, there's
You have 3,
two on
right?
Main Street on opposite sides of the high school.
Yes.
Yeah, you have the
yes.
one. You have
There's
the one by
at the-
Night Your Average Joe's.
Yeah, I
And
was
then you
gonna
have
say.
the one by the hardware store.
I was gonna say there's the one at the hardware store that I used to walk to from the Children's Museum for lunch.
Yeah, that one.
My lunch when I was in high school and I worked at that Children's Museum was half a dozen Boston cream donuts and 2 bottles of Coke every day.
That sums up me knowing you so perfectly that I think people will start to figure that out after a while.
Like I literally would take my break. Now we only got a half hour unpaid at this job. I would walk probably, it's not that far, it's maybe a half mile, absolute
Wait,
max.
You gotta go down the hill and cross the street, right?
Yeah, because I used to work up at the back building. So probably from the clock to the Dunkies was a half mile maximum. I would be there and back, have my food, and eat most of it in 22 minutes or less.
That sounds like you timed that out.
I did.
You don't come up with a number like 22 minutes and not have a stopwatch or something on you.
So I had a coworker. She was a good friend for a while. And she asked me, she's like, "How long does your lunch take?" I was like, today I'm not feeling great. It'll be like 22 minutes. And she was like, "I'm gonna time you." I was like, "Do it, because it'll be funny." Right? Like I always found little ways. I've always found little ways to try to create joy out of nothing. Right? Like let's make it a challenge. Let's create joy out of something. Let's just create something out of nothing. See what we can do. And so one day I had a 22-minute lunch just to prove that I could do lunch in 22 minutes, including walking to the Dunkin' Donuts and back. Was it a good life choice? No, but
I mean, now you're on marathons thinking about it. So
I've completed 2 marathons. Give me 1 second.
I forgot what I was talking about now, so we're gonna have to
Rank these 5 movies.
remember where I was. Yeah, this man's just gonna disappear on me half the time, so we're just gonna figure it out as we go.
Sorry, you mentioned one thing, so I had to prove you right. I got the hard one.
I mean, you weren't trying to prove me right on anything. I was just reiterating the fact that you have done that.
I still have, actually, my bib is on my desk from this past year. My first bib, the rain was so bad that the bib didn't survive. But yeah, so I just grabbed the medals to flex for like just 2 seconds because, again, very New Englander thing.
What was my original point here?
So, rank these 5 movies.
Yeah, but then after that, I had to take after that because we got to work our way back into that.
So,
was me not being a Skyline guy, despite living in the mecca of Skyline?
Yeah, it was. You're not a Skyline. You're not a big Skyline guy.
Yeah, I just don't have the urge to go. Like,
I can respect that take. Like, don't get me wrong. I respect that take.
That might just be me being an outsider and all that, but it's just like
I think it being a sponsor of like a team I work for, and
us, you kind of have that way of just it's always gonna be a present.
If A, it's in the building. B, it was media mail from time to time, and like I've always been, and it goes back to my days being a Boy Scout and everything. Food is fuel. You may like it, you may hate it, but food is fuel. Like it gets you from point A to point B.
That's health 101 right there.
At the end of the day, that's what it's for. So whether you like it or not, you should just suck it up, eat it. As long as if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So to go back to the rank these 5 movies where we started
All
about
right, so
15 minutes
that was
ago.
your favorite job interview question, right?
Yep. So we at the arena football team, as we mentioned, we would do group interviews with the candidates, especially when we get to the second round. And actually, it's my second favorite job interview question, but it's my favorite like kind of fun one that doesn't really tie to the ability to sell. And we did it as kind of a soft opener. To just kind of see how you think, like, because some people would rationalize it out, other people would present me 5-1, right? Like, so they'd start with their worst and work to the best, and others would start with the best and work to the worst. Like, and I had someone that was like, oh, number 3 is the 40-year-old virgin because it's just like kind of a neutral movie, and I was like, honestly, I respect that. It's not the best, not the worst, not a polarizing take.
All right.
So the 5 movies in no particular order are The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Step Brothers, The Hangover, Dodgeball, and Ted.
You want to rank yours, or should I go first?
You can go first.
All right, so we're going 5-1 or just in top bottom?
It's your rankings. You present them how you want.
All right. So,
sir, the world is your oyster.
So I've always put The 40-Year-Old Virgin at the bottom. It's a movie I don't think I've ever seen it either. So I don't want to put it in a spot that I haven't. Because I haven't seen it, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel any way to put it higher than that. So it's kind of like in my NA kind of null and void category.
Mm-hmm.
Ted, I'm throwing number 4. As much as I love that sense of humor, I just think like you look at that movie, it's basically just Family Guy for 90 minutes. It's kind of just the same joke over and over and over and over again. I'm gonna go The Hangover 3. Yeah, I've seen it. I think it's hilarious, but it's just like it just kind of like sets the bar for me. It sets the bar of this list for me, so to speak. Great cast, great jokes, great memes still to this day. I think the memeability of these movies is also very important.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm putting Dodgeball number 2. I do enjoy Dodgeball, but it's been a while. I'm overdue for a watch. But I think you just can't beat the intro of the Globo Gym Purple Cobras when you are, in fact, in a dodgeball league of your own with maybe a beer or two in the gullet, so to speak. Yeah, that was a direct cue for you, by the way, bud. I'm glad you read the room on that one.
Of course, that's my job.
And then, yeah, Step Brothers is just my favorite movie out of that list. Again, top tier memes. You know, I think to sum up where we worked, it seemed like we were like stuck in our own version of that movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think Step Brothers describes that work environment, and there are a lot of great moments, and then other moments were just the Catalina wine mixture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
or it was either the Catalina wine mixer or Planet Bullshit, and it was like one or the other. It wasn't both. There was no middle ground. You were on one of two extremes.
I agree. So kind of rolling off your list. My list has changed since the last time I actually did these rankings because I finally have seen The Hangover. When I did the rankings, I had not seen The Hangover. I actually didn't see it until about 6 months ago. Was the first time I watched the movie The Hangover.
That movie's been out for far too long.
2013 it came out. I was in high school when it came out.
I mean, a decade though.
Yeah, you know, it was on the list.
Yeah,
it was on the list. I will say The 40-Year-Old Virgin, although it's a fantastic movie, great Steve Carell film, really put him where sparked his career trajectory. I think the reason it will take the 5th spot in this list is one reason and one reason only. It aged itself way too quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of the jokes, and I know you said you haven't seen the movie.
I've seen seen the main clips of it. You know what I mean?
Quite a bit of the movie from my recollection. I haven't seen the movie in a long time because it's a good movie, but I don't have a desire to go watch The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Maybe as I get older, I'll probably appreciate it more because I've noticed my taste in movies has changed as I've grown.
Seems like a time and place kind of movie. If that makes sense.
But a lot of it kind of revolves around Steve Carell's character selling his stuff at a we sell it on eBay store. Like that's a big kind of plot point of the movie, if nothing else. And it's one of those things where I sit there and I watch it and I'm like, well, I find that funny because I know what a we sell it at eBay store is, and I know that's a real thing. But when I remove it, if I go eventually, I'm gonna have kids, hopefully, and I'll go to show them like when they're a little older these 5 movies, right? Because I'll make sure they see all 5 of these movies, and they'll be like, Dad, what the hell is a we sell it at eBay store? I was like, oh, it was a service for people to sell their stuff on eBay because they didn't necessarily know how to or whatever. And they'd be like, that's stupid. You can just list it on eBay. It's really easy. I did it in my 3rd grade class on my 17,000th gen Chromebook that's incredibly fast and faster than the home computer you had in 2007 when you were writing papers.
Dial-up.
Dude, I miss dial-up. Hot take, I miss dial-up.
I'm gonna cut all the hot takes up and just see what that does.
That's fine. So
I think that's how we do that. I think we're just gonna cut hot takes and it's gonna have no rhythm to it. It's just gonna
fourth on my list is The Hangover. It's a good movie. It's a very good movie. But I think it was very overhyped, and I think me waiting a year to see the movie helped me see how overhyped said movie was. And I think that's a big part of why I rank it where I rank it. Is because of that one hard and fast fact. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with the movie. It's a good movie. Number 3 on my list is actually Step Brothers. It's a great movie. I really like that movie. But again, kind of into the same realm of The Hangover. I think meme ability is fantastic, but I think there's such a high level of hype that it could be a 5-star movie, but because it's hyped up to be a 5-star movie, if it falls short of a 5-star movie, it automatically seems worse than some film students film at Miami that is going to be a 0.5-star movie. But if it exceeds that expectation, you're like, oh, actually, I'd rather spend my time going to see that. I love The Hangover. I really do. But I think because of the amount of hype it's gotten, it helps it drop on the list because I feel like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, it doesn't actually live up to the hype that it received. Number 2 on my list is Ted. And it's for one reason and one reason only. The Lucky Charms scene. Liam Neeson Lucky Charms scene. That scene alone. Again, it is just Family Guy for 90 minutes. It's just a 90-minute episode of Family Guy with an animated teddy bear. But it's fantastic. The really crappy Boston accents, too.
It's the Peter Griffin Boston accent that carries through in Ted. That makes me feel like Peter Griffin's soul just got sucked into a teddy bear.
Oh, well, yeah, I agree.
It makes it rewatchable.
And I think, and again,
that fact of it more than anything.
The last time I watched Ted was actually 6 or 7 months ago. So I'd been living here for a little while, and just hearing all the really bad accents and everything, like the bad faked Boston accents, made me miss home, and the kind of nostalgia moved Ted up on the list for me.
Oh, did you watch the series on the cock though?
I have not watched the Peacock series. I actually haven't even watched Ted 2 in a while.
But that's the one where I don't want to segue on your take here, but Ted 2 is where they're at Comic-Con, right? And Donnie finds Ted in a pile of Teds. He's just screaming Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
Oh, that's another Bostonian hot take thing.
We'll get there in a minute. Let me finish ranking these.
I need to address this.
Let me finish my top 5 movies. I have literally one left. It's Dodgeball. Dodgeball's my number 1 movie. It is it is by far the movie that has stood the test of time the best. I am a sucker for sports movies, and I am a sucker for anything that's based on reality, like something that really happened. So like Dodgeball, just because it fits both those categories, it's always infinitely going to be a better movie, and it's goddamn hilarious. No one makes me bleed my own blood.
Great list.
Thanks. I appreciate your list as well. Like, I respect where you put things. Now we can go to the Sweet Caroline take. Sorry.
So I think Sweet Caroline got like, it's an older song, so I don't expect a lot of people our age to necessarily know it. But the attachment our city has to that song.
So that's exactly where I was going to disagree with you. I'd say, average Joe, not from Boston.
If you've gone to Fenway, you know what I'm getting at.
Dude, the fact is the 7th inning stretch. It's like
Eighth inning.
No, it's the 7th inning stretch song, sir.
Eighth inning.
Is it the 8th?
It's the 8th inning.
I thought it was after Take Me Out to the Ball Game. They went right into Sweet Caroline.
No, sir.
No, sir. It's been a minute since I've been to a Red Sox game at Fenway.
I mean, the next Red Sox game we're going to
is
in a month anyway.
Yeah, it's at Great American, though.
I do get to be an out-of-townie again for the first time in 6 months, so I get to exercise that. Can't wait for that.
Oh, I can't wait for the bad Boston accents.
I mean, when we were at
they'll fuel me.
SmackDown, we were just chilling, throwing a couple back, right?
Yep.
Then we hear that cover, Sweet Caroline, and you and I just looked at each other like, are we gonna be asshole Bostonians, or are we just gonna let this slide?
And of course, we had to
let it slide.
Oh, but we went for it. We did yell. We sang.
We went for it. Nobody went with it, but
that was a little disappointing.
I was underwhelmed by the Cincinnati awareness of Bostonian baseball tradition. So
it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I can almost guarantee you'll hear it sung at Great American, one of the 2 games you go to.
I still gotta buy tickets for that first game.
I have to buy tickets for both games still, so we'll get there.
I'll get there.
That's future us's problem.
You know what? The tickets aren't that cheap. Tickets are cheap. I'm not worried about it.
Future me is bigger, smarter, stronger, faster, better at everything. He can handle it.
Probably financially stable.
More financially stable than me, hopefully.
You know what? I did make a big purchase today that hopefully in a future episode this will be reflected upon, but just not today. It's a professional investment, to say the least.
I'm proud of you, buddy. I really am.
You know what? It justifies it when I say it's a professional investment. You know what I mean?
I agree. Now I think you're ready for the 3 words that every human ever is feeling.
Don't cock your cat and have it yet.
Well, yeah, no, that's illegal. That's how you get towed.
Yeah. No, we'll get to illegal Bostonian things next time.
I'm sorry. It's the 10 words. It's the 10 words that I know you've been waiting for the most, my friend. Are you ready?
My timbers are shivering just to hear these words resonate for the first time since our road trip from the greater Boston area to Cincinnati, Ohio.
And as you know, the pedal on the right makes you go vroom, motherfucking vroom. Have a great night.
Have a great night.